If you're new here, my name is Barry, and this is my Why It's a Problem to Make Trinity 7 Season 2. In this series, we're going to be going over your favorite anime, and get an idea about how the anime companies operated the show. We're going to check out the income streams they had available to them, and their past business model. Nowadays, animes that had poor brand awareness or poor marketing have been given a second chance to come back. This series is going to give you a better idea of what the problems of the series are. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion, with me adding articles, statements, and past data to back up my position. I'm not their company's executive, I'm not their business financier, I don't have the final word on if this anime is greenlit or no. But I do try to talk about what goes on behind your favorite animes and how much money they actually made. Also, let me know down in the comment section, who's your best girl combination for the series? A for Lilith and Aaron, B for Yu and Levi, C for Mira and Akio, D for Celine and Lisette. And if this is the kind of content you like, make sure to leave a like down below, because it does help a lot. And let's set a like goal for 500 likes. Lastly, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you do, comment I subscribed, and I'll make sure to comment back to you. And make sure to watch to the end of the video so you don't miss out on anything. Review. This being chapters 1 through 29 or season 1. A breakdown phenomenon led to the destruction of Arata Kuraga's town and the disappearance of the people inhabiting it. Arata decides to utilize the magical grimoire given to him by his childhood friend and cousin, Hidri Kasuga, to reconstruct an artificial world and spend the rest of his life there. Lilith Osmi appears to investigate the area, where she gives him two choices: hand over the book or die. However, Arata chose the third option, being to enroll in the top secret magical school, being the Royal Biblia Academy. With his goal to save Hidri, Arata is a lovable pervert who uses his magic as a shortcut, being the Demon Lord candidate, getting quite familiar with the rest of the Trinity Seven and other extraordinary mages. Trinity Seven is classified as a harem, and it's put a lot of stock into this portion of the show, focusing on the girls' offsetting personalities, antics, and admiration of Arata. The anime attempts to change out the casting here and there to give everyone enough time. If you talk about the show, people are going to mention that they like the cast and say that's probably their favorite part about the show, but that's also where the problem starts. But the show is constantly throwing in more characters than the audience can actually handle, and I know some people are like, well, how is having more cute girls a problem? You see, when you add a character, there's supposed to be a point to it. You don't just add a character for the sake of adding a character or to simply spice up the show. You want that character to advance the story or to make our main guy think a little bit more about what he's doing or shift the mood of the show. But the characters that add into the show don't really do very much. And it's not an exaggeration to even say this, because literally the last episode, they're adding in more new characters when they've already laid out the finale's plot. Next is the core pacing problems that don't get better in the manga or the light novel. A major flaw comes from the plot itself. Most of what happens is completely nonsense, with an exorbitant amount of terminology that's just being thrown at the audience, like archives, tamas, and other foreign magical words just being tossed around as if the audience is supposed to simply understand what's happening. The anime never dives into actual real world building. Most of the show takes place at the school, and that's it, not giving us more of the world. There's no pretext, there's no context, there's no subtext for anything that's really going on, but the overall arc and subplots contain this problem as well, throwing the entire experience for a loop. Just shutting my brain off and watching the show is perfectly fine, but it's hard to have another level or deeper level of respect for a show if they don't do enough to build that. Movies and source material. So after season 1, they received 2 other movies. So where exactly do they take place in the manga, and how important are they? Movie 1, Eternity Library and Alchemic Girl, is more or less a novel series that went a little bit further into the meeting of Lilim, daughter of Arata and Lilith. In the manga, Lilim doesn't really show up until chapter 74, but it's already assumed that the audience does know her, so you're supposed to basically watch that movie right after season 1 and then read up on the manga chapters. It's really, really weird, and that's why you have to read the novel to fill in the freaking blanks. Movie 2 is Crimson Lord, which is chapter 30 to 37. So right after season 1, you get the Crimson Lord, or season 2, this being Lilith's father, and also where you get Lilith's new form, and you also get to learn about him being a demon lord, and a little hint about the mother as well. So you can effectively say that these 2 films are season 2, going off the chapters and where they actually would fit in the actual anime. Now, as far as remaining content that they have 3 other arcs they can potentially make into another season or movie, this being Magic Tournament arc, Dante's Gate arc, and the final arc being, I would say, chapter 27. So the company business structure. A long time ago, an anime executive estimated that given enough time, a good 70% of all anime eventually will turn a profit. This happens over years of TV reruns, back catalogs, DVD sales, releases internationally, and other processes. The initial debt they have to pay for each anime rarely actually gets rewarded quickly. The hope is that the remaining 30% that don't make back their money get paid off by the winners. So kind of like what I said in my last video about DxD and what they had to do basically.
Looks like they have to help pay for all the ones that don't exactly do so well. That's kind of how it looks like. DxD is the poster child of Fantasia Bunko. The only other franchise that can really say that they're the face of Fantasia Bunko is Data Life. So they cannot let this shit fail in layman's terms. Them coming out with 15K, like I said, is a problem.
I think Trinity Seven is in that 7% that have actually paid off their sum. Trinity Seven was written by Kenji Sato and illustrated by Akanari Noe, with then being published by Fujimi Shobo, being a company and a brand under Kodakawa Future Publishing. So Kodakawa owns the anime source material, putting it in the Monthly Dragon brand, trying to build traction with the shonen fan base to get more brand awareness, joining 9 other Ichi/harem series with 93 franchises overall, with notable names being like Amagi Brilliant Park, Data Life, Full Metal Panic, High School DxD, High School for the Dead, Mocking Key, Konosuba, Cautious Hero. So on the producer side, Kodakawa operated as Kodakawa Shoten, being the 4th line of ownership, TV Tokyo being the first, being the broadcasting company that they broadcast the show on, Sotsu being the 2nd in charge of advertisement, Plum being the 3rd, being a studio and also an online anime figure store where they would get their merch from, ATX being the 5th, who owns the TV Tokyo as a subsidiary company, Studio Manasu is also the 6th, being an anime studio, Avex Pictures being 7th, doing the overall retailing for the Blu-rays, DVDs, and CDs. Over doing more of these videos, to understand the production company, it's kind of like having an episode of Shark Tank where they're all the sharks and they're trying to get in on this investment, and they're kind of signing off like, yeah, I'll do it, or yeah, I won't do it. And each company is going to be supplying something essentially, so they can stay on the finances plan. Next, we're talking about the Blu-rays, light novels, and overall monies for the show. Trinity 7 Blu-rays sold a total of 16,892 copies, and that's 506,760 USD. The show was popular enough that Right Stuff Anime had it as the #1 top seller in 2016, kind of showing its overseas dominance even though it's been 2 years after it's been aired. Right Stuff Anime being a licensor of the anime, light novel, and manga sales. As of June 2017, the manga series passed over 3 million copies sold. If I look at Japan's weekly sales and added up how much they reported, they sold 616,245. The information coming from news articles and sourcings, with me recording it in a spreadsheet if you want to have it. But as you can see, I'm kind of missing some years that they've definitely sold copies in. The reason for them being missing is them not showing up in the top 100 in their respected month, but I can still guess the averages, adding the total up to 890,121 in Japan. I could also get the United States numbers, which is done by NPD, who are about close enough to 100% tracking for comics and graphic works in the United States, but I would have to pay $2,500 a year to get that information. I prefer the free plan, and from the free plan they don't crack the top 750. The work here is done by Brian Hibbs, CBR, NPD Group, and others, being a respected member of the comic book industry with the backing of top media publishers, overall budget, and franchise earnings. So this is the overview of how much money the franchise brought in, as well as an idea of how much money the company spent on it. I had to do a lot of digging in my own calculations, because a lot of this information is not available. This is me doing days of work to understand what's going on. I had to learn how to read a company's income statement, balance sheets, and stocks, and going forward I probably will be using similar resources and estimates for a lot of the other animes to get a general feel of how much value they actually bring. To start, I counted up how much money did they make in the box office for the movies, that being $19,000 and $2,500. The money for the 2 movies and DVDs came out to be $177,550 with 39 cents. Then the DVD and Blu-rays for the first season were about 506,760. The TV broadcasting was super hard to get an idea for, and had to go to Japan's video research and get an estimate essentially, which is Japan's Nielsen family if you're in the United States. If you're old enough to know that name, then you can see how difficult that already was. It's like getting the Japanese animation TV ratings and dividing by the number of people watching by household, while also dividing how much people watch anime in the country, then adding up how much each view is kind of worth to that particular anime. So it's a total of 27,587.49 cents. Then you're adding up the 2 mobile games that they made, taking in the total downloads divided by $1 out of 4 users, divided again by the active users, multiplied by an average user spending to get about 3,053,500. Music is kinda easier, but that's cause I'm not doing it by song, I'm doing it by the album sales. Doing the album sales times the price, and not counting in the artist cut, being 14,250. Next is printed works, which is a little bit easier, but I did do it on the low end, estimating it about 40,924,023. For the seasonal animes for the 2010s, animation budget being around 2 million to 4 million USD, where it's kind of already outlined here, the franchise as a whole is worth about 45 million, with the TV anime being a little over 3 million, with me not counting in the merch sales and the streaming numbers. The numbers are calculated from yen to USD and then put on the low end so you can just get an idea. The things I couldn't add are the marketing budget, this being because my free membership for Investor Pro is up. So basically look up the company Sotsu's income statements for 2014, go down to selling and marketing, and divide it by the sales of the year. You can get an idea of how many animes that company has done in that year, and you can do it that way, or you can also do it by all their sales for that year. So have fun learning how to do income statements and company stocks. Final thoughts. The show is a 2 out of 5, with decent sound, animation, and a fan base. It's been 8 years of being on a streaming service with 2 movies, one receiving little marketing and theater play, and the other one doing pretty well. And the second movie did about 15,712 in theaters domestically, making what would be season 2 really cost effective. And based on the pattern I see it, I really wouldn't be surprised to see another announcement coming in 2022 to 2025. Plus the second film was available to be shown in the US theaters, so that's already a big deal that they had the trust to do that. If not a season 2, they probably would be just continuing the series with 2 to 3 more movies. Trinity Seven is the author's most popular work to date. Still, he's not necessarily all in on the series like others, which is a healthier approach. He's always stayed very busy, being a producer, storyboarder, director, doing script work, doing CG work, production and supervisor, executive producer, etc. Also putting out his own works from time to time that's not Trinity Seven, like Dance Eating Island, Misumi-san, Can't See Through, Hano no Moji, Himito Siwan, Tomogabai Isekai Tensei, and many others. But these mangas don't seem to last very long, so the anime doesn't have any complicated issues with the author's health, with him actually stating in a recent post that he would be excited to make another season or another movie of this. The anime itself is in a pretty healthy state, with multiple revenue sources and streams, meaning they don't really have too much of a reason to shelf the series as a whole.